you know. So, but the issue of business has not been, you know, in our mindset. So even those who are starting their businesses, essentially because, okay, they have problems that they are solving. But how to really package that business for it to be, you know, a big business, even if it is from as simple as selling eggs, that you could be the one supplying eggs in, I don't know, in a whole county or in a whole country. It is something that if you have packaged it well, it can actually grow to something bigger than that. So you find that there are people who are running businesses, but the mindset is just, you know, for sustainability, for survival, you know, and I guess that's one reason why maybe the ones who have the money are a bit careful to invest in such. So we need to get to a point where, and I believe that is one reason why Sandbox exists, to be able to support SMEs to grow ventures which are beyond just, you know, survival. And then again, also on the other side, the flip side of the investors, I am beginning to think, and especially with these conversations, something I've been thinking, and I've been having that conversation with someone who is in that space out of the country about educating those who have the money on how to invest, because I don't think they know how. They would be interested. We have a lot of land lying idle because somebody said that when you have acres of land, you are wealthy. Yeah. But it's not making you money. In fact, you are spending on it, paying land rates and all that every other year. How about if you invested in a venture? In that case, it's going to create money for you. It's going to create employment. It's going to generate income, you know, even for the government in form of taxes. You know, it's a ripple effect if we look at it. So there's a lot of education around those who have the money, and them learning how to really look at investing in businesses as a way of increasing or building their portfolio.
Well, there's so many things that she said that need unpacking. Need unpacking. Okay, so I'll try not to talk. I'll try not to maybe talk about everything that she talked about. Maybe one of the things which I think we also need to be very aware of is the cost of money. Which is why sometimes it's easier as a company to get money from a foreign funder than it is from a local person, because the flow of capital in the West is, of course, determined by the low interest rates, which make it easier to access funds, and so the risks are, you know, much lower. The cost of that capital is much lower. In Kenya, by the time you go to a bank to get a loan, you talk about 14 to 18%. This person who's lending you money is using that 14 to 18% benchmark, you know, as the risk that they are, you know, as a return, minimum return that they're willing to get. And so when you're comparing 14% funds and funds at 1.5%, or Japan is negative, so they're willing to give you at 0 or 0.5, you know, half of 1%. The realities of the amount of capital and the conditions attached to it become very different. And so that's a conversation which we need to be aware of. When you're approaching somebody and telling them, give me 1 million shillings, they will be thinking, okay, with 1 million shillings, I have fixed deposit which I can get 6%. I have my mutual funds or money market or whatever it is, I can get at 8-9%. I can give it to a Shylock who can lend it out at 30% and give me 15%. So they have these different options. This, for people who are dealing with much larger amounts, and the returns which they can be guaranteed is 1%, 1.5%, coming to Africa with 6%, 7% makes a lot of sense for them. And so then that's the first layer. Then we get to the point of who will they give the money? Will they give somebody who they know, in quotes, because you're from their country, and so subject to their laws.
Relationships.
There's a relationship, there's a network from which they come from. Or will they come to Africa and give it to maybe Joram, who once he switches off his phone, even our police cannot reach you. Once you switch off your phone, leave it at home in in your car, everybody knows that registration number, and that's it. You've disappeared off the
Disappeared
face of
with
the
the
earth.
money.
And it has happened.
Yeah,
There are stories
there have been
that
many
happened.
such stories.
Yeah.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
these are certain things that we always have to realize that is going through every single person who's thinking about giving out money. Yeah. And another thing, sorry, maybe tongue in cheek, but you know, you talk about the billionaires in Kenya who have money. Again, we have to come back and ask, how willing are they to lend? Because how did they get that
How did
money?
they
Yeah.
make that money?
Mhm.
Yeah.
They don't
You
need
know,
to say
so
how they got there.
do they, of course they may not appreciate the grind that a business has to go through,
Mhm.
that you will make losses for X number of years
Yeah.
as you develop, as you build the structures, as you do this, because they know the business of patia
Patronage.
huyu kazi,
Yeah.
or do this tender, or do this construction, or do this, or I have this quota to import maize or sugar or whatever it is.
Quick
And
money.
It's very quick money. They don't understand, they don't care about that process, because for them, again, return on investment, what am I getting? When I can do one small thing, one phone call and make X amount, why should I risk all this on you as
A
this?
startup.
Yes.
Masha, your reactions?
I agree with what they've said. I won't repeat what's been said. I think a lot as local founders, sometimes one doesn't see what is being given as an investment, which it is. This person isn't giving you free, unless it's an organization that's giving you a charitable donation or something of that sort, or it's a philanthropic effort by someone. But local startups need to get more and more into that mindset of, I'm giving you money because I would like a return on it. And that may be longer than some of the other investment vehicles, but ultimately what an investor wants is return, which means then you have to be a bit more deliberate about how you grow your business. And just like thinking about a couple of like next steps, we see the role of a number of people within our ecosystem. We've already talked about guys like Victoria Ventures that are educating the who's who in terms of take your billions and put it back into the local ecosystem. There's the role of hubs to also who act as quote unquote gatekeepers for local foreign investors trying to invest in the local market to then get to more local entrepreneurs and local startups. But then we see a challenge there of some of these solutions or some of these ventures are incredibly siloed. It's me and my venture with the Kenyan government or the UK government, etc. So I think there also needs to be a lot of cross-collaboration across, like a Pan-African view in terms of how we think about investment, how we think about drawing that investment back into our ecosystem so that we can grow our capital stack and get a lot more local folks on local cap tables than we do have now. So those are just like a few things top of mind.
Okay.
I was going to add, I think if we are going to raise money, there's a way the fundraising game is played. And we have to be ready to play it how it's played.
Yeah.
Are you ready to have external people scrutinize your business? One of the reasons why our local businesses don't go for external capital is because they know someone will sit on the board, they'll watch over how the finances are being spent, and I can no longer come on Friday and remove 50,000 shillings and go and drink just like that, because I'll have to answer to somebody else. So control, I have to, pass my decisions, major decisions through somebody else. And then fundraising is also like selling. Sometimes you may have to sell. It's Ken Njoroge who said he sold to 400 private venture capital and private equity funds before he landed his $45 million investment. So again, there's a way you play that game. In first you get the first maybe 50,000 or 100,000, but it's something that you have to put energy into understanding. How do I do a pitch deck that it resonates? Because sometimes you find the white co-founders have come having already understood what kind of data is being looked for on the other side, and they put their pitch in exactly how it looks, even if there's no substance in the background, and they'll get the money, and then they go and try and prove the theory after that. So there are all these things that we have to be open to learning. I ran my business for 11 years before I even started considering external capital, and it's at that point I had reached a place where I was like, anyway, this is going to be hard to grow organically. If we're ever going to scale, I have to be open to accepting money from outside. And with that came a lot of changes. There has to be a solid board in place. Our financials have to be in place. Our pitch has to be right. Our story has to be right. And I had to learn all those things. And now there's another journey ahead, which I have to learn if I'm to scale to higher levels of funding. Again, how is that game played, and how do I build myself to be able to play in that level? Because again, at the end of the day, you're better off owning 10% of $1 billion than 100% of negative $1 million. Yeah.
Well, I really think this conversation is important, especially now with COVID. A lot of companies are looking for funding just to remain afloat. And Wild did an SME performance report just to say how companies are staying afloat. One of the things you found out was funding is key.
Yeah, 80% of the people are desperate for funding to help them, sail across the difficult times. Yeah.
So I think we just want to reiterate some of our key points, some of our take-home points. I want, Jan, if you can just tell me your last point. What should an entrepreneur listening, what can they take home today with regards to capital? We've removed color from the capital. With regards to getting this funding that they need. What do they need to do?
I think, thanks for that, Mary. I think, two things that I'd give, two solutions to this is, first of all, moving away from the bias, I totally agree. The first thing is access to training and mentorship and coaching, and that's provided here at the Sandbox, because people have had all these beautiful things in terms of I need financing, I need access to capital, investors, because there's no university degree for this. But you can come to the Sandbox and get that training and that support so that you have practical skills to access this financing. That's the first thing. The second thing is inspiration, because that's the easiest way to directly impact a mass of people, and that's what's needed right now, to inspire both the people who are financing and the ones who want to be financed. There's something called the Bannister effect. This guy called Roger Bannister, he actually ran 1 mile under 4 minutes, around 1954.
Ineos.
Yes. And he'd done this before. The weird thing is, before him, for 70 years or so, it was impossible. People had been running 10 minutes, or greater, covering 1 mile before him. And when this guy at 25 years of age broke that record in the 1950s, he ran 1 mile under 4 minutes.
What's 1 mile? Is that a kilometer?
That's about close to 2 kilometers.
Okay.
And as soon as he did that, the weirdest thing happened. Remember, for 70 years it was deemed, and earlier it was deemed impossible. And immediately he did that, a week later, somebody broke that record. A month later, another one broke. Now what happened? What changed? Biology didn't change, man didn't evolve, conditions didn't become, weather didn't change. What happened is that the flow state, or the inspiration or understanding of the human race changed. We saw it with Obama, where a lot of black young men said, hey, I can do it as well. So all you need is just that one company. That one company supported at the Sandbox. Yeah, and that can create a Bannister effect in Kenya and Africa. So my take home is, one is educating, that's on the hard, deliverable, and the second one is the soft deliverable, which is so key. We need to hear these inspirational stories.
All right. Maureen, your take home point for us?
The first is a build on his last point, to tell our stories, and also not to take away from folks that have raised capital. Like Eov, who did Andela and Flattery, has raised so much capital. Folks that we should be, celebrating in our ecosystem, and have a view of encouraging more African investors to put money into local startups and to change that capital stack. So let's share our stories. Don't be like me, who raised money and just told their mother, and then we just forgot about that story. So that's the first. The second is really because of where we sit. As a design and digital innovation company, we tend to see a lot of folks coming to us when an idea needs to be panel beaten. Beaten in order to become something that's worthwhile, or a startup that's struggling on its legs, whereas foreign companies come at an idea stage, and they're like, can we walk this journey together to research the idea, to validate it, get your researchers on board, get your designers on board, let's put a development team behind it and make sure that what we're actually building is market value. And then also a sense of, I think entrepreneurs also need to understand that an investor, again, is giving you money to get return, which means the size of the opportunity needs to be made clear from the get-go. It can't be a problem that I'm solving for me and maybe for Mutano only. That it could be amazing, yes, but for an investor, it's really important to tell the story in terms of how this is a 2x opportunity, a 5x opportunity, a 10x, and what that pathway looks like as far as you can see it today. You know, sell that big vision from the understanding of, okay, this is my product, this is my business, it has a strong business model, and kind of these are some of the steps that I'm going to do going forward. And the last is really to leverage our networks and connections to continue the education piece in order to turn our own eyes to our own investments here locally. Because you asked a question about capital and the different stages. You get to Series A and you're raising millions, yeah. But where a lot of money is needed, especially on this continent, is in the early stages, pre-seed, seed, and there a lot of people that have a small amount can make a huge difference. You think about local companies that have raised 1-2 million, and that gives them a bit more runway to validate their idea, to get to MVP, to be able to do a soft launch into the market, or to do a closed beta and get more traction. That's the kind of progression that a number of external startups are able to go through using, I guess, larger amounts of capital that are more accessible to them. So the more we're able to turn our lenses and educate our own folks and convince them, by the way, your shamba, it's not giving you much. I think the better we'll be able to diversify our capital stack. And at the end of the day, as an entrepreneur, one of the reasons I say I don't think capital has color is because what you need is money, right? What you need is runway to get to the next step. So as someone that has had to go through that journey a number of times, I totally appreciate the difficulties that we go through in terms of you're trying to raise money, you're going countercultural because American culture, for example, is big on, words or like to describe things emotively, like it's awesome, it's fantastic, this opportunity will be big. Here, I will describe to you how the feature, when you click on it, it will do this. So learning that language and learning the culture that you are investing from is also paramount. So those are just 4 things that I think entrepreneurs can take into account.
Thank you. Timothy, your closing remarks?
Coming after such intelligent
Kill us now.
Okay, give me one more. I can
I can
give you one more.
Google for you. Let me Google for you.
for me quickly. Okay, mine is simple. Mine is simple. It's that there's a code, and when you understand what that code is, it's not something that you don't already know. I think for every person who starts a business and wants to seek funds for it, there are certain things which they kind of know are required, but simple ways of figuring out whether you're ready for an investor to invest in you is simple things like, if you walked into a bank, would you get money? So there's a certain, I'll say there's a code and there's a way of cracking it. And I think that's the fundamental of why the sandbox is here. That's it. I don't think there's anything more I can add, because when you think about the business holistically, what we're doing is preparing you either to thrive, to scale, to be funded, or whatever it is. That's what we're here to do. When you think about from idea stage to your process, to your fundraising, to your legal systems, to whatever it is, to your governance, to your communications, there's a way that you should, as a business, be prepared for you to access whatever level of capital it is. And the earlier you realize that that there's a way of doing it, then the easier it is for you to access the capital. So Maureen has talked about things like like the message, how you're communicating your story. This, you know, among the other
17 next
things
week.
that you say. But you know, so there's that code which maybe the foreign startup founders have figured it out, and if they figured out the code, then what is stopping us from doing it? You know, that information is here, and we have that information. And so if there's a code and they've hacked it, and that's why they're getting more capital, then it's not the money that's biased, it's not the capital that's biased, it's just we're not yet doing what it is that we need to get that cash. Yeah.
So for Stephanie and Joram, I want to throw you under the bus a little. Taskies, you know what's happening. They're going bankrupt. What solutions do both of you have to help them? Because I feel sometimes we get wrapped up in our own stories, and we forget that there are people who need help out there. They could be listening to this. What are the 3 things you want them to do to get out of this problem that they're in?
That's completely under the bus.
I know.
But,
I actually have a solution.
Team!
yes.
Back to the
Team.
Tell them to
Yeah.
hire consultants.
Yes.
Who can help them
You can help them
Yes.
to.
through the rebirth journey.
But I think,
Do they
yeah,
need money? What they need is
they
money?
do need money, but there's from what I've seen in the media, and in one report about the retail sector and the foreign investment. So one of the things I read in a report this week is that they are aggressively looking to get an external funder. But sometimes what people do is wait for you to become weaker and your value to go down, so they buy you on the cheap. But Tuskies has organically grown to, I think, over 100 and something stores right now, from mini to large ones. But I look at their board and I largely still see family.
Yeah.
That may not give a lot of
The
confidence
external
to
accountability.
to investors. I look at I've had a few things about how they operate internally, and I think there's a lot of needs, like just the systems they have internally to ensure, because this is a replay of something we've seen before,
With Nakumatt.
where with Nakumatt, where you have an entity that owes quite a bit of money and they're a retail chain. So you ask yourself, where did the money go to?
Yeah,
Are they
'cause they
operating
get
expenses
money.
to her? Because a retail chain, until when something is off the shelf, it means someone has paid for it. So if you don't have the money to pay the supplier of that thing, it means something happened in between that we cannot explain. So it's just moving away from that family, getting experienced people to run it. The external capital would be great, but there's a lot that needs to happen there. And I really hope that as a Kenyan story, they do survive and get that capital and management injected in that can enable. Because if you look at Quickmart, Naivas, all the others did so, and did quite early, where they brought external people and external boards and external capital. So let's not hold on too much until the demise is happening, is when we start running for capital. Because people will just wait to see you go down the drain and pick the whatever's like. Others will just wait for your location, so they're like, we're better off not buying someone who's in a lot of debt. Let's just wait for them to die and take their location.
Wow.
Yeah.
Stephanie.
Yeah, I think it's handled most of what could be happening right there. But if I just to summarize from the experience of Nakumatt, mostly issues around governance. Them having been, family-grown businesses, the issues of, how they govern their business, how the systems are run, and the structures which have been put in place could be actually what is causing those retail, outlets suffer as such. And also in that space, there's a lot of learning right there. So right now, like it says, when you go shopping and you pay cash, the money is there. How that, again, we start hearing stories that, they're running bankrupt, there is no money, it cannot be explained. So the external funding could come in handy at this time for them to stay afloat but they will have now, because of where they are at, they will have to be agreeable to some, certain
Radical
issue,
change.
from whoever will step in for them. So yeah.
If they ask you for money, anybody here willing to put in some money to tax this?
Well,
With those tough conditions,
yeah,
yes.
the conditions, yes. And then again, like Maureen mentioned, and then again, as Maureen mentioned, they also need the external expertise, to put in the right structures and to run things not as, family, biashara.
Yeah.
And to some extent that is plays also a bigger aspect, reason why external funding sometimes they're a bit, they're a bit careful when they're investing in the locals, because to some there's that feeling that they may not be open enough to let them in and run these things in a very transparent, form. So that again is also blocking some of those who are trying to raise funding locally from getting funding because of that. Because now when you get to the legal aspects of all that and some issues are raised, I know several people who have gone, the long haul, up to the term sheets, and now you are getting to the point, the due diligence is done. Then now when you table all those documentation, they're like, hey, these people are coming to take our biashara, we don't want. Yeah, so again, in as much as the blacks are crying for that, okay, white capital and all that, you need to know that you are getting something, so you need also to give up something in exchange.
Alright. So that's the end of this
I had some
very
final
exciting.
You didn't give us a chance for our final
I
words.
thought this was
Another final words.
No. Just the two of us. We were thrown under the bus.
Please
We can't
share.
remain under the bus.
Summarize.
I just wanted to say.
To you squeaky.
No, I just wanted to quickly say the ecosystem has come a long way. For us to be talking term sheets, Series A, Series B, Series 10 years ago, we were not talking about this ecosystem at all. So now we have expertise, we have understanding, people who can help you with your product, with everything. So we've come a long way. So I'll just say be open to it.
Yeah.
I would also say bias exists, but don't let it become a crutch. Because when you set it as such, and as you're saying with mindset, then all you'll see is a lack of opportunity. Where skin cannot help you, compensate for it with passion and drive and never giving up. So if it means you're going to talk to 500 people before you get funding, do it.
Love
Yeah.
it, love it.
Don't get entitled here.
Yeah. I was going to talk about that.
I'm sorry.
Your final words?
So what I would say is that as entrepreneurs, we cannot underestimate the fact that the white capital is looking for the black founders. That right there means we have something, and we should not underestimate that. So all we need to do is to understand their language. What really are they looking at for them to be able to release that capital? And basically, it's all around getting investor ready. How you package your opportunity, and in a way that it creates value for the person you're looking to put money in your business. Like Maureen mentioned, the problems that you are solving, it's not, the way you wake up in them. I get a lot of that. Last week I met someone who was really looking for me that, oh, Stephanie, I want to raise money. I have this app, it's very interesting. He was showing me the features and all that. Then now we broke it down. So how are you making money? And he's not able to really explain how he's making money. So how will the investor put in money there? The next thing was, okay, do you have a pitch deck, a business? It doesn't have. So that just essentially tells you, okay, the issue of you have the idea, you are looking for external funding. What does those who are looking to, invest in you, what are they looking at? Are you ready? So what we do is that at this point, on matters investor readiness, we have the checklist, but now it's not like in the bank where at the end we tick, tick, tick. So where we are not able to tick, so we get down and we work on that. We do the packaging bit. Then now we can start promoting. If we are able to see that we have been able to tick all that checklist, then we do the connection.
The biggest one for me is don't let bias be a crutch.
Yep.
Where you lack in color, compensate with passion. That's it from our chats at the box, where we're talking about Black founders, white capital. I hope you join us for our next edition, where we'll be talking about women in business. We're coming back for that. Thank you so much, guys. We really appreciate your time, and everybody should be part of our village WhatsApp group. Eh?
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks.
And cut.